prison. One woman's story of a life filled with hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Then Jesus walked in and restored her life.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope, open my eyes to see the world through different eyes, revealing your light, restoring hope.
It is the second day of June in the Lord's year 2013. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and welcome to this Sunday edition of Restoring Hope Live here at webcast1live.com. If you're listening live to this product on XM Sirius or American Family Radio, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. We know you have lots of choices that you can listen to live and in podcasts, and for whatever reason, the good Lord has led you here today. We believe that something that will be said today is something God needed you to hear, and your only way of hearing it is listening to this show. So God bless you. We ask that God's words come through our mouths throughout this entire show. In the name of Jesus, amen. All right, let's introduce you to our guest today. Jamie is a mother. She is we're not going to hold this against her. She's a bass player. She's a musician. She is a design artist for a sign company. But most importantly, as she says on her Facebook, she is a born-again Christian. But how she got here is a story that you've probably never heard and won't believe till you hear it out of her mouth. Jamie, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Nice to have you here.
Thanks, Matt.
And also sitting next to Jamie is her very brave husband, Scott. And he's got a microphone in front of him, and he can speak up whenever he wants. But and we won't hold it against him because he's a drummer. So you're kind of a musical family.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What was that family when we were growing up? Partridge Family. Yeah, kind of, so you're Danny Bonaducci.
You're Danny.
No, he was the bass player, I think, of that. I'm the little kid that was the drummer, Chris.
Yeah, Chris, you're right. You're right. Okay. In the panel today, of course, Pastor Michael Hartwig, who is my co-host here at RestoringHopeLive.com. Hello, Michael.
Good afternoon.
Joe Mintz from St. Gregory's, who is our alcohol and addiction specialist. And whenever we have someone like... someone wonderful like Jamie on, we always like to have an expert in the house on how treatment and going to a treatment center or retreat center can help somebody like that. So, Joe, welcome to you.
Afternoon, Matt.
And Bob Montserrat, our cat in the hat, watching the chat. If you are watching this on the internet, yes, this is a program you can watch. You can also click on chat, and you can come up and you can talk to us from there. Bob is also a member of the I'm an Expert at Alcohol group because you are a forensic scientist by trade. And
That's correct. That's correct.
Spend a lot of time giving testimony in the court of law on the impact and effects of alcohol on people.
Yes, only about 1,000 times.
Only about 1,000 times. Have you given 1,000 sermons in your life?
Yeah, I bet you I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
I bet you haven't.
Some of them wouldn't qualify as sermons, but they feel like it. Yeah, from my perspective.
That's not when you talk to your kids and give them a bad time. That's not in sermon.
Yeah.
All right, Jamie, what we want to know is what your life was like and what happened and what it's like now. So let's start with, where did you grow up? Where are you from?
I'm from Ankeny, Iowa.
Ankeny, Iowa. All
Born
right.
in Texas.
And what?
Born in Texas.
Born in Texas. All right. And were you a good girl growing up?
Yes, I would say I was a fairly good girl.
Okay. You didn't skip school.
No.
Okay.
Didn't
You had
skip
good
school.
grades.
Had good grades.
Honored your mother and father.
Honored my mother and father.
But you snuck out from time to time, didn't you?
Yeah. In my teenage years, I started going astray.
Going astray. Is that how your mother would put it?
I'm sure she would.
Okay.
So did your folks take you to church all the time? And
Yeah, my mom took me to church, me and my sisters, and
no dad. Dad didn't take you to church?
Dad didn't go to church with us.
How many sisters?
There's 4 girls.
Ooh,
Wow, no wonder Dad didn't go to church. He had some quiet time at home for a while.
Yeah.
And so about what age did you start straying away from the rules of Mom and Dad and Moses?
I started straying away in, I would say, probably 7th grade.
Okay.
And I started sneaking cigarettes.
Okay.
And that's when it seemed like everything started to change.
Who'd you sneak the cigarettes from?
Well, there was a new neighbor girl that moved in, and her parents smoked. So we either smoked her mom's cigarette butts, which is really disgusting now to think about.
Well, but as a
Or
kid.
then, we would sneak a whole one here and there and share it.
And so so cigarettes were your gateway drug?
Yes, they were.
And then what was next?
Then it was alcohol.
Okay, and where'd you get the alcohol?
Another girlfriend of mine in 8th grade would fill up baby food jars full of alcohol from her dad's liquor cabinet.
No kidding.
And bring them to school, and we would drink in the bathroom, either before school or in between classes.
Now, do you consider yourself an alcoholic?
Yes.
Okay, so do you remember what that first buzz felt like, that first drink of alcohol from a baby food jar?
I remember it tasted really, really bad, but then I remember I really liked the feeling that I got from it.
Okay.
So that's the memory.
So it's cigarettes in the 7th grade. It's alcohol in the 8th grade. Lord, tell us, what was in the 9th grade?
Pot.
Really?
Started smoking pot.
Another new girl in the neighborhood?
This was actually a guy.
Okay.
A boyfriend.
Okay.
And got high with him for the first time. And I remember I couldn't even make it back to where my mom was picking me up at the school because I was getting lost walking around the area.
Did Mom have any idea?
I got in the car, I remember, and I told her I was sick. And so she drove me home, and I laid in bed and didn't go to school the next day. I was so high.
Really?
Yeah. And so it was very hallucinogenic for me at the very first time I ever tried it.
And did you like it?
No, I did not like it. But then I did it again because I wanted to be like the other kids that could handle it. Okay. So I was bound and determined to not be one of these people that can't do it.
And the school didn't jump in there or anything? They didn't?
The school didn't know about the pot. This was like happening after school.
They know about the alcohol?
No, they never did know about the alcohol until 9th grade when we decided to drink before cheerleading practice. And so we were not doing a very good job with our cheerleading tryouts. We were getting ready to try out for 9th grade cheerleading because we had already been 8th graders. And they found out about it. One of the girls that was our leader, her mom was a teacher, and so she told her mom that we were drunk. And then they called our parents and all that stuff. So that's when I started getting in trouble, like with school, because of my drinking.
And what did Mom and Dad say when they found out?
We were all in denial about it, and we denied and denied and denied. So I remember doing that forever, even when Mom could smell cigarettes on me, and I would just deny. And then in 9th grade, I had gotten some weed from a guy, and I had it in my locker. And he ended up getting in trouble and told the principal that I had something in my locker to kind of get himself out of trouble. And they searched my locker, and then I was in trouble for pot in 9th grade.
And did you deny to your parents again?
I told him it was his, and I didn't know it was in there.
Yeah.
And then they had one of the police officers come and talk to me, and I was still in complete denial, and I just was lying about it all.
Joe, this kind of sounds like a cop show, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Sounds deny, not mine. It was somebody else's.
Hey, that's what you do, man. That's what you do, especially when you're a kid. I don't know anybody that says, you know what, doggone it, I've sinned, and I'd really like to face the repercussions of my actions at this point. So, it's that sounds a little familiar.
When you hear the stories of the patients that come through St. Gregory's Retreat Center, is that Jamie's story?
Nah, that's... Yeah,
typical?
in one way or another. I mean, not always, but that's the thing. I mean, lives are very different for everybody, and every story's got their the unique quality, and it really is about what is the journey that you took to find out where you are, and it's always interesting to hear that path.
So we're in the 9th grade now with Jamie, and she's had alcohol, and she's had pot, and she's had cigarettes. And next, I believe, from hearing your story, we have a boyfriend. And then we have a baby, right?
Yes.
That's coming up. All right. We're going to join Jamie again with her husband, Scott, when we come back. This is Restoring Hope Live at RestoringHopeLive.com, powered by WebcastOneLive.com.
Restoring hope.
J. Michael McCoy here with Restoring Hope, and I've got my friend Joe Meintz in from St. Gregory's Retreat Centers. And, no matter what the issue that we speak of with Restoring Hope, it all comes down to hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Now, maybe those habits turn into addictions. Maybe those hang-ups turn into depression or heavy resentments. And maybe what you've done is you've thought, well, I'm okay. I don't drink too much alcohol. I don't smoke dope and do meth. But I've got some antidepressants that I get from the doctor, and I had that back injury, from a year or so ago, that old football injury, guys, right? Wink, wink. So you take some painkillers, and before you know it, your life's out of control. And I know you don't want to admit that. I'm okay. I've been there too. But at some point, things happen, and people notice. And you're in the grips of prescription medicine addiction. And you think, well, the doctor's given it to me. It's got to be okay. It's not. And one of the people that can help you release from that grip is St. Gregory's. How crucial is it that people understand what they're doing with prescription drugs nowadays?
I'll tell you, it's an incredible epidemic, and it's really at the forefront of what we see in the addiction treatment world, really. There's so many times where people are trying to figure out, well, are these narcotic painkillers good or bad altogether? Are these anxiety relievers good or bad altogether? And what we're really finding is those drugs serve a purpose. When you've had an injury and you're taking those painkillers, everyone knows, I think, that can be a real godsend when there's extreme pain. The difficulty is exactly what you had mentioned. When there's some other hurts, habits, or hangups in your life, then all of a sudden those painkillers start filling a need other than just the physical pain. Yep. When they start replacing some of the difficulty in dealing with your emotional traumas with a pill, as well as the physical relief, now we have a real twofold issue. We've got physical issues as well as mental and emotional issues that pill is really helping you with. And that's how we see so many people come into this trap of prescription drug addiction. Now, a lot of times we have a lot of trouble with people who fall into the grips of a prescription drug addiction because it doesn't seem like the same type of a thing that we'd normally speak of when we talk about addiction. And they're a lot of times reluctant to seek out help because they think, well, I'm not a cocaine user or I'm not at the bar every day, but they know that they've got difficulties in coming off of these medications and they're affecting a lot of different dynamics in their lives. And that's something that St. Gregory's really prides ourselves on. When somebody comes into our program for help, we first of all really make sure that we're helping you to become well enough to recover wholly. We're really trying to help you understand why are you behaving and what's really causing those emotional difficulties, and then teaching you the tools and skills to overcome those barriers that are keeping you from being the person you were created to be. We disagree with the idea that God created you to be an addict. We're really getting down to the barrel here of understanding what does it look like for you to honestly evaluate what are your gifts, what are your talents, where is your value. And when we understand what those are, now we can start lining up what types of activities, what kind of life engagement are you looking at that's really going to provide that happiness for you. And that's how we intend to help people recover. And let's help to restore you from the bottom up, and you're able to obtain happiness and joy from other areas of your life.
I've met them. They're honest to goodness human counselors that understand where you're coming from. They understand your hurt, your habit, and your hang up, and they're going to help you, and they're going to help you with the love of Jesus Christ. That's the most important thing. All right, the number again, 1-888-778-5833. That's 888-778-5833. The website is stgregoryctr.com.
Restoring hope. Open my heart to sing. Taking the darkness inside. Revealing your light. Restoring hope.
19 minutes after the hour on this, the second day of June in the Lord's year 2013. I'm J. Michael McCoy, along with Pastor Reverend Dr. Michael Hartwig. I still am not used to all those titles.
Dr. Mike is fine. Just Mike is fine.
I think it's important people know that you're an ordained pastor, though.
Well, it doesn't really matter. Proof is in the pudding. Just call me Mike.
Mike.
I don't really care what you call me.
How about D-Mike?
D-Mike. D-Mike? D-Mike.
D-Mike. This is a radio show.
D-Mike.
Yeah.
Give me the radio voice on D-Mike, Mac.
Joe Meintz with us from St. Gregory's, Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat. I always like to give credit to our producers. Ryan and Maddie are doing a fabulous job in there. But the most important person in the room is Jesus. And a few years ago, Jesus came along and saved this young lady out of a life of, well, it was a tough life. Jamie is her name. Her husband Scott's with her. And I want to go back to 9th grade. We're now smoking dope. We're drinking alcohol. We're in trouble at school. We're in trouble at home. The only thing left, don't tell me, you got pregnant.
Yeah, that came a little bit later after I met my boyfriend in 9th grade, and he was actually a pot seller.
Okay.
So my parents didn't want me to
drug dealers.
Yes.
Okay.
And so my parents did not. They heard some rumors about him. Did not want me to date him. Plus, he was a senior, and I was only in 9th grade.
Yeah.
And he had a car.
Yeah.
So I started sneaking out my bedroom window at night, and he would come and pick me up.
Okay.
And a couple years later, I ended up pregnant. And by this time, I was 16 and had progressed to also doing speed pills and pot and alcohol.
Do you remember? Tell me about the moment that you realized you were pregnant. I was going to ask if you remember it, but I have no doubt that you do.
All I could think about was that I had been using, and was the baby going to be okay?
Okay.
But the biggest thing was that I knew that I could never have an abortion, and so I just
Why not?
It was just something that I didn't believe in for myself, that it was the right thing to do. So I just quit doing pretty much everything. Still smoked a cigarette occasionally.
So you went ahead and had the baby?
Yes, went ahead and had the baby. Finished out high school at Ankeny.
Now, I want to hear how you told mom and dad.
I don't really remember how I told them. I think I was sick from school, and my mom came in after like the second or third day. It was in the mornings, and then I would feel better in the afternoon, and she asked me. She knew.
Okay.
So I admitted it then.
So where were you with God and all that?
I grew up going to church with my mom, and I was I always believed in God. I felt like he was really way up in heaven and real far away, not really paying much attention to me.
What denomination?
Catholic.
Catholic, okay. All right, so you finish high school. So you're pregnant in high school.
Pregnant in high school.
That's tough.
Yeah, it was tough, but I was a good student, even though I was like a partier too. I hung around with the partying kids and also the good studious kids.
Okay.
So I had friends both, in my classes, because I was never one that would skip school. I really liked school.
Okay.
And I was planning on going to college. So it was a really important thing for me to do well in school.
All right. So you have a boy.
Yep.
His name is?
Tyler.
And you are, 17 at this point?
Yeah, we got a house.
Meaning?
My parents wouldn't let us get married. So I told them I was moving out anyway. And Todd and I moved to Polk City and got...
This is the drug dealer. Okay.
He by this time was out of high school, and so he got a job where his mom worked at a printing company and started working full time, and we were able to get an FHA loan to get a house.
Okay.
And so that's how we started our life together as a young couple. Recreational drug user, drinker. On the weekends, I didn't drink again or use until after I stopped nursing my son.
Okay.
And then it started with cigarettes again. It was just from cigarettes to alcohol to other drugs.
Now, I want to ask Joe a question because I find this interesting. Here you've got a woman who says she's alcoholic, but yet she can stop drinking. Her maternal instincts take over. She can stop drinking for the period of her pregnancy and then return to that.
Yeah. Yeah. People are usually surprised, but the number one most effective intervention in substance abuse is a pregnancy.
Doesn't really work for the men, though.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Oh, you mean
it works exactly the same way?
Oh, really?
If you have a baby expecting, you are most likely to walk away from a substance abuse at that point. Many never return.
Right.
Now, what usually is the hinging factor, and I'm curious as to the environment that continued on and persisted. The gentleman you were with, did he cease using, or did
No.
he continue on? And so that was just kind of there waiting for you.
Yes.
So really, we're talking about the environment of your life had still been there. You had found some sort of internal locus of control, and were able to really focus on a moral obligation, something higher that's already written on your heart, I think. And yet everything around you is just kind of waiting for the chips to fall, it sounds like.
Drawing me right back in. He and I never did think that we had a problem with it. It was something that we did and all of our friends did. So the friends would continue to come over. You know, we were the couple that had their own house. So we were pretty popular, and people would come over and they would drink and get high or whatever. And even when I wasn't using, you know, it was just it was right there, readily available for when I chose to start up again.
So, Joe, is that one of the values of a retreat center? Is it pulls them out of the environment? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that line in the sand is always the beginning part.
Right.
But, you know, the entirety of the program really focuses also on what does it look like when you go home to start rearranging that environmental issue. And that's a big issue. So it's incredibly common what you're talking about. It's one thing to escape that type of lifestyle.
Right.
But if it's still there, there's going to be hard times. And without building up some sort of real platform by which you can operate off of the rest of your life, it's really, really difficult because it takes a bad day. And when everything else around you is still there you are. And it makes it really difficult. So.
That's Joe Mines from St. Gregory's. Dr. Michael Hartwig in the house. I'm Mac, and we're talking with Jamie and Scott. I want to pause for just a second. And there's a mother listening out there today. And the story that you're telling makes her frightened because she thinks this is her little girl at age 14, 15, 16. What would you say to that mother right now?
I would say don't stop praying. I know my mother prayed for me for years and years and years and didn't see any visible results to her prayer. She saw me going further and further into denial about my problem. And also by the time I got out of college, I was already divorced and my life was starting to crumble before I ever decided to give everything up.
Joe, what would you say to that mother?
Oh, that's exactly right. From a personal standpoint on myself, that's the only reason why I'm walking and talking today is the prayers of my family and those that loved me.
Is this a time when a parent should call St. Gregory's?
You know,
and make them aware of what's going on and begin to educate themselves on what possibilities are?
Absolutely. I mean, from my perspective, you know, we have a lot of people that call in and say, well, I'm not sure if my child is ready for help or if my spouse is ready for help. I don't care. You know, we've dealt with enough people who, you know, I'll just tell you, people die. We see it all the time. There's a lot of people who haven't hit rock bottom that are dead. Do whatever it takes to get between your loved one and that dope or that bottle. I don't care what it takes. Do it now. There's just so much devastating.
Yeah, and death is around the corner. All right, we're up against a break. We've got about 60 seconds. You said that you and this gentleman got married, and then you got divorced. You finished college?
Finished college a year after the divorce. I took a year off. My alcoholism addictions had started to take over, especially after the divorce. And I was blaming everybody else for my problems. And so I took a year off, worked for a year, got married for the second time, and then went back to college and finished my last year.
Okay, but very shortly you're off to prison, right?
No, I still have one more marriage before that even happened to go.
Okay. And more drugs.
Yes, way more drugs.
Bad drugs.
Bad drugs.
Like what?
Methamphetamine.
Okay.
Cocaine.
Wow. This is Iowa. People don't understand. We live in Iowa, and there's a ton of meth here in Iowa.
Yes.
It's just incredible.
It's very prevalent.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it would be that prevalent. All right. When we come back, we've got a third divorce.
Yes.
We've got another child.
Yes.
We've got meth, cocaine addiction, and time in prison.
Yes.
Boy, Jesus was really looking for you for a long time, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
You're a lucky girl. All right, we're coming back here in just a minute. Dr. Michael Hartwig in the house with me, along with Bob Monserrat and Joe Mines. Ryan is producing along with Maddie. I'm Mac, and if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. Right here on RestoringHopeLive.com, powered by Webcast One Live.
Restoring hope.
Here's Dan Celia with today's Stewardship Moment.
Listen to what Jesus said in Luke 17, 18, and 19. Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner? You know, I think in these verses, you can almost hear the frustration in Jesus' voice for the sin of ingratitude. Do you go about your business and forget to give God praises for your ability to earn a living, to receive a paycheck? Let's not take for granted all the gifts that God has given us. Remember, it all comes from God, and as faithful stewards and servants, let's give Him the praise and the glory.
You've just heard a Stewardship Moment with Dan Celia of Financial Issues Ministry, helping you plan, give, and invest wisely. For more information, log on to financialissues.org. That's financialissues.org.
This moment of uncontrollable laughter was made possible by a 32-year-old man with little to no coordination attempting to execute a simple cartwheel. His name is Sergeant Warner, but young James, our laughing friend here, simply calls him Dad. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
The Pocket Testament League presents Pocket Power. Read, carry, and share the gospel every day. There's no easier way to share your faith than by giving someone a free gift, the Word of God in a compact, pocket-sized gospel.
I'm in a nursing home ministry. My main thrust is for them to get the gospel message. I've used the Gospel of John booklets here, and when we travel or go out to eat.
This is Mike Brickley, president of the Pocket Testament League. League members have found that any place is a good place to share a pocket gospel with someone they meet. Join us, and you'll always be ready. Is there anything more important?
I'm so thankful I have the opportunity to share, and I praise God for the ministry that makes it possible for me. I also ride with the Christian Motorcycle Association, and we're taking these out when we ride.
What are you waiting for? Read, carry, and share the gospel every day. For more information, call 1-800-636-8785 or visit pocketpower.org. That's pocketpower.org.
So, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket, but it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place, and then they act so surprised when I find them, but I'm like, hello, that's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
This is John Vodder with Not Alone. Here is another testimony of God at work.
My struggle with drugs started in junior high with pot. I was always shy, and doing drugs helped me fit in. Then in college, I tried cocaine, and the first time scared me, but the feeling was incredible, and I moved on to heroin. After that, it seemed like nothing else mattered. Fighting with my dad, stealing from my grandparents. Everyone wrote me off, and my chances were all used up. At 19, I went to rehab, and I've been in and out of 5 of them in the last 8 years. Then a friend heard Not Alone on this radio station. I went to lighthousenetwork.org, and the care guide there found me the help I so desperately needed. I'm now getting my life back together, one step at a time, and so can you.
If you or someone you love needs help today, remember you're not alone. Go to lighthousenetwork.org and find help now.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
It's second day of June in the Lord's year 2013. Thanks for listening. This is RestoringHopeLive.com, a program that is Christ-centered and that deals with people's hurts, habits, and hang-ups. If you've got a story and you'd like to share it, well, we'd love to have you. Just go to our website, RestoringHopeLive.com, and contact us. Remember, it's our belief that that story, how the hound of heaven, how Jesus finally found you, that's your DNA with Jesus. And you and he alone have that story. And he needs you to share it with somebody. You probably heard something inside of Jamie's story today that helped you move on with something you're dealing with in your life. Perhaps you are a young parent and you've got troubled teens, and Jamie's now giving you some advice, and Joe is giving you some advice on ways to try to get that child back in order. That's the reason that we tell these stories, and that's the reason we're here, restoringhopelive.com. We do have a toll-free line if you'd like to call in. It's at 1-855-244-0077. I'll say that again in just a minute if you want to grab a piece of paper and pencil and write it down. It sounds rather ominous, but it's pretty easy to remember. It's 1-855-244-0077. And we'd love to have you call in. We're manning the phones right now. And it is Eric that is producing. I keep saying Ryan, and that's my week producer. All right, Jamie. So you are now...
Your week producer.
Yeah, geez.
During the week producer.
Oh, during the week producer.
What did I say?
Weak, meaning not very strong.
No.
The other one is very weak.
He's a very good producer.
Oh, but he does it during the week. Okay.
That's
my job here is to make sure you say that.
I understand your job. Okay. We are now 25, 4?
Sure.
Okay. Well, but basically...
In my 20s.
You're
23 was the divorce.
Okay.
First divorce.
Okay.
So you stayed with that guy for a long time.
Yeah, we were together for quite a while.
Had a child together.
It ended in physical abuse, and that's what ended the marriage.
Okay.
I was cheating on him, and he hit me, knocked my front tooth out, so I left. And we had a really, really messy, bad child custody battle over our son. His mother was involved. I felt like they were...
His mother?
His mother.
Oh.
So they each hired lawyers against me for custody of my son. They ended up winning custody. I just plunged further and further into alcoholism, drug addiction. All I could do was to drown out the pain. That's what I always felt like. I just didn't want to feel the pain.
Right.
You got married again?
Got married again right away. He got married again right away. And so, I have a new husband with a daughter.
Was this the affair?
This was not the affair.
Okay. All right.
This marriage, by the time we actually got married, only lasted 7 months.
Okay. Abuse again?
Not really. I guess I would just say he was a controller.
Okay.
And it could have escalated into that. I guess we weren't together long enough for that to happen.
Okay. Alcohol and drug abuse continues.
Yeah, the drug abuse actually stopped, but the alcohol continued. He would be the kind that would drink one drink and then let me drink, and then he would be the one driving home whenever we went out.
Okay. All right. So bring us to the point where you're arrested for the first time.
I got arrested for the first time. I guess it would be a drug charge.
Okay.
And this was, I was giving a friend a ride home, and he had drugs on him, and I had a small amount on me. And so it was a misdemeanor possession charge.
Okay.
And
second time you're arrested.
Second time arrested, drunk driving.
Okay.
37 years old by this time. I had already gone through a third marriage, which was very violent, very abusive. He was a race car driver, and he was Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Okay.
When he was drinking?
When he was drinking or sober. And so it was very hard to tell what kind of mood he was going to be in. He was also a meth user. And so he was doing stuff behind my back. I started doing stuff behind his back. And it ended up in a terrible ending.
Okay. So you got arrested?
Got arrested after the third divorce. I was on my own for a little while and drinking a lot. Fell asleep driving, and the cops were behind me, saw me swerving, and so that ended up in a drunk driving charge.
Okay.
I was living way out of town in Carlisle and was having a difficulty finding rides to get into work. So pretty soon the job ended, and then pretty soon it was my bright idea to start selling drugs so that I could continue using and do mine for free and pay my rent at the same time. So that was my justification.
And then you were arrested again.
Yes.
And this time you went to jail.
This time I was actually in violation of my probation from the drunk driving. Okay. I did not complete all of my community service. So the judge ordered me to serve 30 days in jail. So it wasn't really an arrest, I guess.
Yeah.
Like that. I was just in violation. This happened 2 days before Christmas, and they shipped me off to Pattonsburg, which was one of the places that Polk County shipped people if they were too full. Down in Pattonsburg, they were showing the movie Passion of the Christ, and I watched it 3 times. Each time, I tears just came out over me the whole time of the movie. I stayed up one night in my bed and just cried and just said, Lord, 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 please save me. Jesus, please come into my heart and save me. I felt so sinful. I felt like my heart was just closing shut. And I felt like I was going to die. I really felt like my heart was just going to just close shut and then just never open back up again. So I remember going to sleep praying, and it was the first time I had prayed in a long time. The last prayer that I remember before that, I was praying for God not to kill me because I was too high on cocaine. And Lord, if you let me stay alive, then I won't use anymore. And then, of course, I stayed alive, and then I continued to use anyway.
Yeah.
So
bargains with God, we've all made them.
Yep.
All right. So do you feel like you received the Holy Spirit?
Yeah.
That night?
I know I did that night, and then a week later. And so I woke up the next morning, and I just felt like this huge weight was lifted off of me. My heart felt free. I went running around the jail area, and I was hugging all the girls, telling them that Jesus is alive. He loves you. I love everyone. And everybody probably thought I was just absolutely nuts.
But you weren't.
But full of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
You know. And then a week after that, I feel like he filled me some more. I was comforting a girl that was crying. She had gotten some bad news on the phone, and there were 3 of us hugging each other. And one of the girls started speaking in tongues, which I had heard of before, but I had never experienced anybody doing that. And then she was saying something in the tongue, and then she would interpret it and tell me what the Lord was saying to me, because at first I wasn't really paying attention. I thought she was talking to the other girl that was crying. And then I kept hearing my name. And what she was saying was, Jamie, he keeps saying, prophesy and you shall see, whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Trust in me and you shall see, whom the Son sets free is free indeed. She said, Jamie, he keeps saying that over and over to you. And then he said, I love you with more love than your own mother and father. You are strong. The Lord knows you are strong. Keep doing your music and art only for me, only to glorify me. The end is near. You must wait as I have waited on you. Now you must wait on me.
Wow.
And so that whole thing was prophesied. And then you are blessed. You are so blessed, more than you have room to receive. And that was the message. And then I was feeling so unworthy. And all of a sudden she said, he says, yes, you are worthy. And it was like exactly what I was thinking in my mind. He knew and was answering what I was feeling. Yes, you are worthy. And I know he has made me worthy.
Now, how long ago was this?
This was in January of 2005.
Okay. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, I want to know what your life's like now. Okay, I want to know how you're serving the Lord. Scott, I want you to jump in here, if you would, a little bit.
Sure.
Because you guys are newlyweds, right?
That's correct.
I mean, you got married, what, August, you said?
October
20th, 2012.
Move closer to the mic, please.
October 20th of 2012.
Okay, and...
don't forget that date, by the way.
Yeah, write that down.
Yeah, you write it down.
Good reminder.
Yeah.
All right, Joe Mines from St. Gregory's in the house. Bob Monser at the Cat in the Hat. We've got, of course, Dr. Michael Hartwig, who's my co-host. Eric is producing along with Maddie. My guests are Jamie and Scott. And phone lines will be open in the next segment if you want to call in. 1-855 1-855-244-0077. That's again 1-855-244-0077. This is RestoringHopeLive.com, powered by WebcastOneLive.com.
Restoring hope.
Addiction treatment is all the same. Whether you're addicted to pornography or whether you're addicted to Miller beer, there's still addiction. And I've got Joe Mites here from St. Gregory's. And if everything's an addiction treatment, then why are shows like this so important for St. Gregory to be around?
That's a really good question, because this format really talks about those issues that people are struggling with. What we're really dealing with when we talk about addictions treatment is really getting to those core fundamental issues that are really throwing confusion into people's lives about what's my purpose, how did I get here, what do I do from here, and that's really what we find leads to an addiction. That's a big point for us.
You know, I know that at the end of my addiction, when I was either going to choose to live or die, one of the questions that came out, because I did have a spiritual relationship with God at the time. I didn't know Jesus this well, but I kept saying, what's my purpose? Why am I here? I'm 40-something years old. I've had my kids. I've made money. My wife's okay. Why are you keeping me around?
That's what's really surprising for people as they go through the St. Gregory program, is what the program's really focused on isn't so much about putting Band-Aids on things and helping you find momentary, fleeting bits of happiness or pleasure. We're really breaking down what does it look like to obtain true happiness and true joy. We're really making an effort to help people heal completely from the inside out and help them to reach a higher goal as opposed to just being sober. We're not looking at sobriety as the end goal. We're looking at your life. We're really looking at the big things that you really want to accomplish, not to help not do.
Yeah, because if you're not sober, if you're alcoholic or addicted to drugs or depression medicine or anything like that, you really can't get to start.
That's right. You'll see someone come out of a recovery program when sobriety is their primary focus in life. That's the end game. And they get there and, well, nothing really comes from just sobriety, and they start thinking, is this it? Well, no. The whole point is that's not it. The point is, let's go and achieve things with the rest of your life. Let's really be involved and engaged in those things that really are going to bring you happiness and joy. And that's a very different approach. We really want to make sure that people are grasping this idea that life is very big, and it can be very big for them. And they've come to this point where all they understand is this little world of being caught in the cycle of addiction and dependencies. We're helping to break that, not just for the sake of breaking addiction and dependencies, but so they can go on and live out their life with purpose and meaning.
Yeah, I hear so many people talk about after they get sober and after the desire to drink or drug or whatever is lifted from them, then they realize how messed up their life is.
That's exactly right.
They've been swallowing it and burying it, and they can't feel the pain. And when they begin to feel the pain, that's when somebody like St. Gregory's can come in and, you know, literally one hand at a time, pull them out of that dark hole.
That's right. What St. Gregory Retreat Center does, we're going to start from the beginning. We're going to really get a full understanding of what's truly going on here. And by that, I'm not talking about, well, you drink too much or you're using drugs. The real problem is what is the emotional turmoil that's really causing you to respond to life in an unhealthy way? How do we help you to challenge those beliefs that you may have about yourself in a way that helps you not to just move on with life and not be reactive to things, but truly understand the real logic behind why are you believing what you're believing? How are you really pursuing a life of joy and happiness?
All right, how do we get a hold of St. Gregory's?
You can get a hold of St. Gregory's at 888-778-5833. Our counselors are always available. That's 888-778-5833. The website is stgregoryctr.com, and you can just do a Google search for St. Gregory Retreat Center, and that'll come right up.
Restoring hope. Open my heart to sing. Taking the darkness inside. Revealing your light. Restoring hope.
Second day of June, Lord's Year 2013. I'm J. Michael McCoy. My guests are Jamie and Scott. And I want to get to what your life is like now, but we have a couple other things that are in your life that are pretty important, including the suicide of your son.
Yes.
And was that drug and alcohol related also?
Yes.
And you also had a fire and lost everything?
Yes. After this 30-day jail thing, when I got out, there was a fire in the apartment building I was living in and burned everything up that I owned. I moved in with Mom. But
this is after you accepted Christ?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't get into church right away. I did have a Bible that I took home with me, but didn't really start reading the Word yet. And I knew that I still had drugs in my car from earlier. And so I remember I had that on my mind. And so what I was doing from that point on was going back to the old friends, doing the same drugs, but telling them that I got saved and that I had these words spoken from Jesus. And so, I know he was using me then to speak to people, even though I wasn't a good testimony of a Christian yet. And so it was almost like immediately backsliding out of ignorance. And I thought, he loves me. He saved me. He doesn't care what I do. He knows I have a good heart.
How did you and God deal with the suicide of your son? Did you get angry with him? Did you blame him?
I was blessed that day to experience a taste of what heaven feels like. I will never be able to describe how much love that I felt as I put my hand on my son's chest. He was laying there in the hospital. And I just felt this warmth go right up my arm, right into my heart. And immediately I knew that my son was with the Lord and that I didn't have to worry about him anymore. All the anxiety that I had felt about him was gone. And I remember leaving the hospital, even though my son had just died, and seeing some of his friends and telling them, it's okay, Tyler's with Jesus. He's with Jesus. He's okay. So that happened at that point. Shortly after that, I was still selling to people that I knew, and then ended up getting arrested and going to prison. The very first thing that I did when I got thrown into jail was ask for a Bible. I knew exactly where I had gone wrong because I was starting to feel bad about the stuff that I was doing, but I hadn't really started reaching out enough to go to church or anything yet. So as soon as I got arrested again, I just dove right into the Bible and actually started a reading schedule and devoured the whole thing.
And you started a woman's Bible study in prison. I ended up starting a Celebrate Recovery program. And I was involved in several Bible studies. They had outside people come in and actually do the studies, but I was involved in going to the studies. Scott, when did you and Jamie meet? Now come right up against...
It was after she was released. I go to Lutheran Church of Hope, and I always sit in a certain pie. That's my spot. And all of a sudden I looked up, and I seen this blonde come walking by, and I'm like, very interesting. She had a really nice round head, and I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting there. And that was the very first time that I saw her. It was in October of 2010. Yep, that was the first time I saw her.
And then when did you ask her out?
Well, I'd seen her at different places, and then, of course, when you always say that you have to greet somebody, except we started getting a little closer and hugging each other, and it lasted a little bit longer and stuff. We kind of look at each other and say hello to it, and a little chit-chat here and there. And then I was fortunate enough to be an alpha host. And of all the tables inside the bridge at Lutheran Church of Hope, she sat right behind us. And then alpha's not a dating. You can't date there, so I had to wait to the very last day.
Right.
And I asked her out for a cup of coffee. And then we started going out after that.
And when you first heard Jamie's story, did you think, I got to stay away from this woman? I can't get involved in something like this.
I've been in recovery for a while, so it's not... Everybody's unique, like we had talked about before, but there are similarities in there. And it's like, because part of this is that I've been praying for a wife. I've never been married in my whole life. I never went to church until Lutheran Church of Hope in my whole life. I've been praying and tried the dating sites, all this other stuff, and nothing was there and nothing was going on with me. Then I'm praying for it. I said, well, beautiful woman with blonde hair, be nice. Be nice if she had a son. And sure enough, Jamie walked in that day. And yeah, there was conversations that we had about different things going on with us. Absolutely. For me being a veteran, a background, she's never really talked to any veteran, bless her heart. So there's different things that we both brought to the table for us that we had to deal with and talk about, for different things like that she's had gone through in her life and that I have gone through in my life. And but we'd be able to come together and talk about it though.
And do you said you yourself are in recovery from alcohol, drugs, what?
I'm an addict.
You're an addict.
Yep.
Okay. So do you support each other then as addicts and alcoholics and help each other? Or does it sometimes scare you that maybe you'll fall off or she'll fall off and then it'll be a terrible mess?
No, that's not even an issue for us for that. It's using is one thing. Now, having the addict behavior is another thing that we sometimes fall into with the self-centeredness, the selfishness, the pride and the ego that we'll both have to bring up to each other that we have to deal with.
Okay.
But it's not, the using stuff is, I'll think about it as an addict. That's something that I had to learn really early, that you're going to think about it, but it's the choice that you make when you think about it.
Right.
And it's okay that you have those thoughts, but then if you follow through with the positive action after that, then it's going to be okay. And I think it's nice that we hold each other accountable for different things too.
Good. And you're both musicians, and you're involved when Celebrate Recovery at church and get involved that way. And how old is your son?
My youngest son now is 14.
14. And how you like being a dad?
It's actually scares the heck out of me. And it's interesting too. I'm going through that 33 course, Authentic Manhood, and I'll never forget, of course, I've been through the Alpha course, been able to host it, and there's different things about the Holy Spirit like we had talked about before. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting is that whenever we feel we're challenged, my first thought is to run away. And this last week, it was 2 weeks ago, he said this. He said, no, lean in. Mm-hmm. Lean in to God for that. And I probably have heard it before, but it's something that had really stuck with me to be able to lean in that. But he's an easy young man to love. He really, really is, because that was one of the things, too, is that, because she even said that if he didn't like me and I didn't like him, this probably wouldn't work, but we gang up on her. Wait, I didn't say that out loud, did I? No. Yeah. And we pick on her, but not really. But
do the boys gang up on you now?
Sometimes they do, yeah.
Yeah, he's on my side, which is really cool.
Right.
Now, if I recall, his biological father has passed away.
Yes.
So you're the only man in his life right now.
He has a lot of uncles. He has a lot of other male figures that are very positive role models in his life, too. I believe so, from what I understand what he tells us. Yeah,
if you had to bring it down to one thing, what brought the change?
The change in the behavior or?
Change in your life.
Change in my life was Jesus. He came to me. He sought me out when I wasn't even looking for him and when I felt too sinful to come to him. He came to me and revealed himself to me that, yes, he is alive and that he does love me.
Wow, what a great testimony.
Thank you very much for both of you coming in today. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story. We'll hear from somebody that you made a difference in their life, and I'll pass that on to you. We're very blessed to hear from people when they hear stories and they make a difference, and so thank you very much. All right, Dr. Mike, thank you very much for being here.
No problem. Matt, you're a great guy. Thanks for putting this together.
Oh, no problem. Hey, Joe, thanks for being here. Bob Montserrat. Fred. Alice.
Eric the Great.
Eric the Great producing, and Maddie, we appreciate that. And we'll see you again a week from right now, live on this very station. This is RestoringHopeLive.com, powered by Webcast1Live.com.